You need lead generation. You need a flow, you need lead flow, and you need a systematic way to handle and triage them so that you know who to talk to and when to talk to them. And you need automation. Like I couldn't do what I do without automation. I don't automate everything, but I automate all of the really top of funnel stuff to get them down here. And when I get them down here, that's when I'll touch them.
Guys, we are here on another episode of the Weekly Chime. I've got my buddy Kory with me, Kory Prince, who is down there in Canada. Can't believe I got to say those words finally. Kory, what's up, man? What are we talking about today?
When you guys reached out to have me on the panel, we were actually going to do sort of AI assistant stuff because I do a ton of that. Absolutely. But I figured like one of the biggest missing pieces for most teams and ones that I struggled with in the beginning was agent accountability. So absolutely, it's, in my opinion, it's easy to get leads as long as you throw a decent amount of money at it. It's challenging to convert them, and it's even more challenging to figure out how to coach and have other agents convert them. So that agent accountability piece is I think super important. I think it's not talked about enough.
I was just going to say, I think that's something that you specifically would be really, really good at talking about. Kory, for those that don't know, you're still out of production, right? You're essentially...
Yeah, I haven't written a listing contract or a deal in almost 5 years now.
Seriously.
I don't even know what the paperwork is anymore. It's changed in my market. So I don't know. I look in the system because my partner writes but I don't even know how to do it anymore.
So if you could, do you have like a 30,000 foot view of how your business works? Because you run one of the most unique businesses that I've seen. Everybody that I've ever met other than you is like, I don't want to follow up with people. I want to hire people to do it. And here's Kory, who's essentially, you became your own team's ISA, right?
Yeah. And essentially what we do, so the 30,000 foot, I love the aeronautical terms because you're obviously a pilot. So yeah, basically what I do is I live in Edmonton, Alberta, which is a province in Canada next to BC, which is where the Olympics were in Vancouver. And I used to be in Vancouver area. That's where my major market is, Greater Vancouver and the Lower Mainland there. And I moved to Edmonton for personal reasons to be closer to family and things like that. And all of our lead gen is all over Canada. So we actually get leads from all over Canada for a bunch of different reasons. And what will often happen is they'll want to sell a place where we are our major market. So in BC, like in British Columbia, where my business partner lives, and they'll want to buy in Edmonton or they'll want to buy in, Toronto or somewhere like that. So when somebody's on the site and they say, hey, look, we're thinking of selling, I can set them up with information and appraisal in the market they're in. I can also pair them up with a partner agent in any city or any region in Canada. And then I can set up listings on both sides on my site. So basically we just have me as the conduit, as the ISA who basically nurtures them long-term. And when it comes time for them to buy, I just pair them off with the agent and refer it out. And I sit in Edmonton and I don't ever even go into these markets where we're buying and selling. It's pretty unique.
And let's talk a little bit about your model as we go into agent accountability here. I want people to understand that you've run, I've known you since 2015. You've run maybe 2016. I've seen you run all kinds of different models over the years. And it was awesome to watch you literally pull yourself out of production and take over basically the follow-up role in your business, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, damn, now I get to sit at home all day. That's cool. But how many agents do you guys have? Right. And then tell me more about the structure.
Okay. So there is currently there's 3 agents that are on the team plus myself. I'm licensed as well, but I'm licensed in a province I don't live in, so I can, talk to leads there and whatnot. And then there's probably about 40 referral agents total that I refer out to all over the country. Predominantly what we're doing is we're trying to help people in our markets buy and sell, but oftentimes the market that we base in is Greater Vancouver and Lower Mainland. Very high value. It's appreciated an extreme amount. The average house value in Vancouver Metro is probably $2 to $2.5 million. And those are pretty basic homes. That's just the demand to live there. So what you'll get is let's say I was talking about Brett Baker, who's extremely successful and has a very nice house. He would go, hey, I think I want to sell out of this market and I want to move into a market that's less expensive, i.e. somewhere in Alaska, perhaps. And they have a couple $1 million in equity in a property and they're thinking of buying over here. What I can do is when we start that conversation, I can go, hey, in Alaska, let me send you some options to look at in Alaska for X amount of money, maybe a quarter or half of what I think his house is worth. And what he'll see if he's considering moving there is he'll get 10 times the house for half the price or less, right? And that can sometimes be the impetus to really cause people to go, wow, this could work. They start talking to their wife, they start considering it, maybe arrange a trip out to Alaska to take a look, and then, you know, the rest is history. We don't push people to buy or sell. We just provide information and tools so that if they do, it makes it easier and more smooth, and then we get paid on that functionality, right?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So you have 3 agents on the team plus yourself who's licensed, and you about 40 agents that are referral agents. Let's tie in a little bit, because when you're handling that many people, right, you have to have agent accountability. Let's dive right into that channel. That kind of teed us up for that. How do we, what do we need to know about agent accountability? How do we have more accountable agents?
I'd say the biggest mistake I made in the past was I would pull up the agent accountability report, something that I use in a program that I use that shows number of conversations, appointments set, appointments met, signed, sold. It has all those key metrics, those KPIs that you really need to know. And I would pull it up, and if Brett was the agent, I go, okay, Brett, and I would present that report to you. And you would sit there glazed over and not really understand what's going on. So like the biggest, I'd say the smartest thing you can do is I don't present it to the agent presents it to me. They explain it to me, and in doing so, they need to understand it. They need to be looking at it at a regular basis. So that little distinction that I learned quite a while ago makes a huge difference. And if they're not caring or they don't want to present it to you, well, they're not really an agent that you probably want to do business with in any respect, right?
Right. What kind of metrics are you tracking?
So the major ones are conversations, and a conversation is a phone call that's over 5 minutes tracked in the CRM. So that is what I consider a conversation. If it's 3 minutes, I don't count it. Appointments set, appointments met, buyer signed, listing signed, pending, and closed. Those are the key metrics. Yeah.
Okay. So on let's keep your team, let's go with your core team, right? What are you expecting out of your core team agents? Right, you're doing the follow-up, you're teeing people up. What are you expecting out of the 3 agents that are in your team that are not you?
The biggest thing that I expect and I demand actually is notes in the CRM are always up to date and are always prompt. So I pass the lead off to Brett. Brett's a rock star agent. I know he's going to do good when he gets in front of somebody. I set an appointment for tomorrow for, let's say, a listing appointment. I want the notes on what happened in that listing appointment, basically right after the appointment is ideal. So if I go in the day after that, I know, okay, Brett met with this client, here's the challenges, or we got the listing, or we didn't, or whatever it is. So I know what to say when I call that agent to follow, or when I call that client to follow up. If there's no notes there, I don't even know if you met them. I don't even know if there was a car accident or there was a fire, or I don't know anything. But if there's notes there, I think that goes a long way. And if somebody's unwilling to do that, it's a pretty clear line in the sand that they're not going to really fit.
Right. And then how are you using, okay, so you have, let's say 40 agents that are referral agents throughout all of Canada. How do you hand that lead off to them? And B, do you have them in your Chime site? How does that work? Like, kind of walk me through that.
So that's a really good question. So all of the agents on the team, not the referral agents, but the agents on the team are in Chime or in CRM. The referral agents are not, they're in Sisu. So I use Sisu as a bridge between the two. And when somebody is a referral agent, for instance, let's say somebody's going to buy in Toronto and there's a particular property they want to see, and I've got a Toronto agent I'm going to hook them up with. In Sisu, I can push the lead from Chime to Sisu. It's got all the details. I can put the property address, and then I can assign the referral agent in Sisu. That kicks off a series automatically to the client and to the lead, or sort of the client and to the referral agent. So it sends an email. The immediate series goes to the referral agent saying, great, I've got Brett Baker. He's looking at this. Get in touch with him. He's expecting your call. And then the lead also gets the same thing, saying, oh, meet Brett Baker. He's going to get in touch with you and you can have a chat. And then it kicks off a series every 30 days for the next 90 days that just sends an email to the referral agent saying, hey, Brett, I referred, whoever to you. How's it going? Also, in the footer of that email, it has the way to pay me, my referral check too. It says exactly how. So every communication they get from me, it reminds them I'm checking in. I want to see what I can do to help. And if the best thing has happened and you've closed it, here's how you pay me. Right.
So you're basically using Sisu to essentially pass the trust off from you. You've gotten the trust, right? And the cool part, that the reason that I love your model so much is because you get the trust initially. And what I see so many agents kind of screw up is they take that initial trust and they pass it off to somebody else. That initial trust needs to be built by someone who knows your area, who knows your business. And so you actually get to do that. And now you pass that trust that you've already gained with that client, you pass that trust off to another agent, which I think is brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So Sisu does the trust build for you and the transfer of trust. And then that agent closes them. That agent pays you. What happens to the client after they close? Are you following up with them afterward? Do you keep that client as a past client?
Yeah, so depending on if they bought or sold, if they sold and I don't have access to where they bought and I don't know their address, well, then I can't follow up based on where their address is. But I basically count them as a past client, even though I didn't do the deal, because I'm the contact and they're going to expect to hear from Countrywide, our real estate group. And they're going to expect to hear from me. So even though I pass it off to another agent to close the deal, I still initiate it. So I'm getting some credit for facilitating that deal. If they're a buyer, like I referred it off and you bought a place in Anchorage, I'm going to be sending you holiday cards, home anniversary cards to the address that you bought, so that when you buy or sell again, you're going to go through me again, and I'll refer you to that same referral agent maybe, but depending on the circumstance, I might refer you to somebody else, right? So I want to be the point of contact. I want there to be value in doing business with us, right?
I would even, if I were in your shoes, if I had that, if say the person sold their house and they were buying again, I would even, you have their contact information. I would even consider reaching out to them like, hey, do you mind if we update our database? Where'd you buy? Like, or for statistical reasons, where did you buy? I think that would get you, that way you could always keep that contact information. Do you mail? Well, I know mailing in Canada is weird. You guys have weird postal codes. I don't get how that works. Do you mail to these people?
we do, yeah. So we mail to, depending on what kinds of client they are, whether they're a client or a potential client, we do mail. But we mail from mail carriers in America. So so I use Mailbox Power because it integrates with Chime. Yeah. So when I add a client to, or I add a lead to a particular group in Chime, it kicks off a series in Mailbox Power based on what they are. In fact, one thing I started doing about a year ago, which I think is a really lost opportunity or a missed opportunity in real estate, is let's say if somebody buys your listing, right? They buy your listing, you have the contract, so you know their name and you know their new address. I don't know anything else, but I know their name and I know their new address. So what happens is they go on a Mailbox Power mail campaign where they get postcards from us, home anniversary, congrats for buying the home, and they also get holiday cards. And most of the time, their agent's probably not following up. And if they decide to sell that house in the future, guess what? We've already demonstrated we could sell it. We already sold it to them. So that's a really good pro tip I'd suggest people set up if they don't have.
It's funny that you bring that up because we've been doing that for years. Anytime if whoever bought the listing, because we take it off the stance of real estate agents are absolutely terrible at past client follow-up, which we were actually talking about right before this call.
Right before we got on the call.
I mean, literally right before. But agents are terrible about past client follow-up. And so if you see you have the name and you have the address of your listing, it's very easy to keep people on a mailer and follow up with them for their home anniversaries and follow up with them for this and that. And you'd be shocked. You pull a lot of clients out of that, which is not a bad thing.
Like that's great. Bear fruit. Oh, sorry. It doesn't bear fruit in the next month or two necessarily, but it bears fruit in years.
Right. It's all a farm, right? And so some people farm actually with mailers. Some people digitally farm. I did both. I know you've done definitely both.
Yeah.
What are you seeing right now, kind of across the board, if you would, where agents are dropping the ball as far as metrics that they should be tracking and metrics that maybe they haven't, maybe it's metrics they haven't even thought about tracking? Where would you start if you were to tell an agent like, hey, I have a team, right? I have a team of agents. What should I be tracking? Yeah. Where should I start?
I'd say the biggest three are conversations and appointments set and met. Because if you don't have conversations and you don't have appointments set and appointments met, you're not going to have deals. That's where everything comes from. And you can reverse engineer based on your goal. Let's say your goal for an agent is 100K or 200K, whatever it is. You can historically look at how many conversations are required to get how many appointments to get how many appointments met. And then you can go, okay, if you want to hit this goal, you need to do 5 conversations a day. And then it's a really simple thing every day. Do your 5 conversations. If you haven't done your 5 conversations and you're not achieving your goal, that's the problem. It's pretty simple, right? And you can also coach to where the issue is. If they're doing enough conversations, but they're not setting enough appointments or they're not meeting enough appointments, well, then that's the issue. They're picking up the phone and they're not converting. But if you're not tracking any of this stuff, they're just not being successful. You don't know why. You have to be able to coach to a specific issue. And if you do that and solve it, then that's not an issue anymore.
Yeah. You brought something up a minute ago that I kind of want to touch back on. You said that you don't count a call unless it's 5 minutes or more. Yeah. Talk to me about that. Yeah. What is so significant about 5 minutes?
So if you, like, I have lots of phone calls that are lead generation phone calls of people that are on our site or favoriting properties, whatever it is, that are 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And you can have a decent conversation. You can adjust their property alerts. You can sort of get an idea of what they're looking for, but there's not really that deep, there's not that deep rapport of like where you got your hooks into them, if you will. So we just made a call that 5 minutes plus is what's going to count. And they're much harder to get than obviously 2 or 3 minutes, but then they're more significant. There's no question if we have an 8-minute call with somebody and you've set up their search and you booked an appointment for them to talk to a mortgage broker, that's a pretty damn good conversation, right? Like
that's 100% agree with that. Yeah.
So it's a personal decision. That's just our model. I think 5+ minutes makes the most sense.
Sure. Yeah, that was just if it was 3, you didn't count it. If it's 5, you count it. And that was just kind of like I want to know why. The other thing that I kind of want to touch on a little bit, and I wasn't going to go this route, but Kory, you're the only guy that I've ever met that has gone the model you've gone. And I have to ask, because I know we're going to get questions on this. Why? Why did you go with the model that you went with? Rephrase. Let me go further with that. Most agents are avoiding being their own ISA. Like they hate it. Why did you go this route?
There's a couple of reasons. One is geographically where I need to live right now. I can't live in the market that I'm licensed in, and I built this business in. So I got licensed 12 years ago. I've got a database of 65, 70,000 people in a market I don't live in. So there's a huge opportunity there. So that's one of the big ones. I also am a very systems oriented guy. So I like systems. I'm like you. I nerd out on systems a lot. So I like that. And I figure like the way to get this dialed in the best way is to architect it myself. And that's what I've done over the last number of years. So now that the systems are really tight, now I can plug in other ISAs and just show them exactly how to do it. They don't really need to reinvent the wheel. They just need to do what needs to be done. If you hire somebody to go architect it, they're not as inexpensive as somebody who just needs to do the work.
Right.
You know? You're looking for like a systems engineer, like a chief strategist versus, somebody who's personable on the phone. Those can be 2 different people, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's I know we're going to get questions on it probably later in the Facebook group, but it becomes how does one even consider going that model?
Yeah. You need lead generation. You need a flow, you need lead flow, and you need a systematic way to handle and triage them so that you know who to talk to and when to talk to them. And you need automation. I couldn't do what I do without automation. I don't automate everything, but I automate all of the really top of funnel stuff to get them down here. When I get them down here, that's when I'll touch them. I've got what I call a top 50 list in the CRM, and it's just a series of filters where I'm like, these are the top 50 people, and then I just focus on calling those people on a daily basis.
Sure.
Fundamentally, right? Yeah.
We all do things a little different when it comes to follow-up. I have my little runway out thing that I use that I swear by. You have your own way too. And I know that your way works extremely well. I've watched it since forever. Talk to me, new lead comes in. What do? What happens about that?
So when a new lead comes in on Chime, the AI assistant starts qualifying it as a new lead, right? We don't do a ton of manual stuff. We will call them occasionally. Me or some of the other agents may call them in the first couple days, but the AI assistant's going to touch them a couple times that first day, maybe one or two the second day, and qualify them. Basically, what the AI tags them is what will determine what happens next. So if the AI tags them as no response, they'll go into long-term nurture, and a bunch of automation will kick off there. If it tags them as something that's hot, warm, or cold, it'll go into one of those pipelines. It'll kick off automations there. All the while in the background, certain things they do, viewing a listing 3 times, saving a property, that will trigger voicemail drops from me. So that all happens in the background. And then when somebody calls me back, when somebody texts me back, when somebody emails me back, I deal with that because there's enough of that out of 65,000 leads that I don't need to pursue people that aren't basically responding to us.
Perfect. And that's one of the things that I see a lot through coaching and stuff like that is you see people that they don't know where to start. They don't know how to even initiate any of those sequences that you were just talking about. And I think what works for you, what works for me, what works for others, they all vary slightly. But in your situation, automation has made your business much easier. It's much easier.
Way easier.
When you talk about, okay, so I know we get people on these calls that are new to Chime, that are new to using the system, that have maybe used different systems before. Where would you say for someone starting out with following up with leads, what would you tell them they should initially do when they first get Chime? How would you start following up leads?
Like get enough of a budget so that you can enact the AI assistant. You can actually have leads to follow up with. I see that's really important. And just pick up the phone and call people and have conversations. That's how I figured out exactly what I think works and what I think doesn't work, and how I've slowly architected over many years is just doing the grunt work myself, and then realizing, hey, I'm sending this email all the time in this circumstance. I can automate that. Boom, that's done. And doing that 20 or 30 times, and eventually the only things you have left is picking up the phone when somebody wants to view a property. And that's something you should never automate, right? And because you want to talk to them and book the appointment, right?
Exactly. And my favorite thing that like I watched in the very beginning, you and I we both did similar things in the beginning, and then we both kind of branched off different directions. And what's crazy is over the years, I know you get this question all the time. I did it all the time. Like, well, how do I automate my life? How do I make all of this automated? Like, I just want to buy automation. And it's like, you can't. And you can't because the reason that Kory is able to automate so much is because Kory has made tens of thousands of phone calls, tens of thousands of texts, and he's figured out, okay, hey, you know what? I say the same crap every single time on this one. I'm going to make this a voicemail drop, or I do the same step. I'm going to send this text out automatically this time. And so you've just taken what's worked for you over the years and gone, okay, I can automate this and now be able to focus over here. It's very awesome to watch that.
No, I appreciate that. The term automation is thrown out so much, and it's such a broad term. Automation. It depends on what industry we're talking about. It depends on so many things what that's going to mean. And it just comes down to you got to do it. You got to be in the trenches and do it yourself to figure out what missing pieces there are, what optimization there could be. And if you just want somebody to come in and fix all your problems, that doesn't really exist. I'm sorry. When it comes to automation, you need to understand. It
will never work as well as if you had been doing the follow-up initially in your area. And I see a lot of people that struggle with that. And if you're getting 10 leads or less a week, you do not need automation right away. If you get 10 leads or less, that should be all on you. At 10 leads or less, you should be, I don't know how many post-it notes around me. You should be holding up, like if you use BombBomb or Dub or Chime's new, if you get their beta video text thing that just came out. That's pretty sweet. If you take and hold up a Post-it note with Kory's name on it and be like, hey, Kory, Brett over here at the Baker team, just wanted to check in with you. Hope all's going well. I mean, super simple stuff like that, but it's super me-mail. It's directed at you. If you start doing stuff like that with 10 leads or less, you don't need automate. I mean, the AI assistant, do not get me wrong. Everybody should have that. If you have the budget for it, have the AI assistant. That's going to help you. Even long-term nurtures, if you notice that on the AI assistant, you can now select what type of long-term follow-up you're doing. I thought that was super cool. That just got released.
What I really want Chime to develop, and I put it in as a feature request, and I encourage everybody here to do the same thing, is some variation of past client check-in via the AI assistant. So once they know it's a past client, they don't reach out and try to qualify them. They go, oh, you know, thanks for doing business with us last year. We just wanted to see how things were. Something that they can come clean that it's an automatic thing, but at the same time, it does a touch. They can maybe put people to the top of the list to give a call, right? That'd be great.
I couldn't agree more with that. That would be awesome.
So that'd be the most incredible objective of the Chime AI assistant I've ever heard in my entire life.
And now that you mentioned that, I will also be going to put it into a feature request, or if Eric is watching this, maybe he could jump on that. I don't know if Eric is on this call or not. What's that?
Yeah, it'd be such an amazing feature. And you could even have it automatically reach out and encourage reviews with a link for the Google review that's integrated. You could ask for referrals via that. Like it can do everything that we need to do, and it's the AI assistant, so it will get better through machine learning and improving it. Right. Yeah.
We have like 2 minutes left, and so I want to leave on a question for you. How long have you been with Chime? What year? 2 years?
Five-ish years.
5 years? Jeez, time really does fly, doesn't it?
Something like that,
Okay, so it's been a while since you were new. We get a lot of people that are new that join the Facebook group that are new to Chime, right? Yeah. If you were to give one piece of advice for newcomers to Chime on anything with Chime, what would your one piece of advice be?
Good question. Yeah, well, because it's like there's 100 things, but like, what's the best?
What's like the one thing that you would say? Like, what's the first thing that you would recommend someone do when they get Chime?
I would play around with it, get an idea of how the basics work, and I'd get some simple email series going for, I'd say, long-term nurture, because that's the most common one where somebody's not ready to go and you want something that's going to touch them in a meaningful way, ideally with BombBomb videos. And yeah, just learn how it works and then use it. Use the call recording feature. That's one of the most powerful features, I'd say. Yeah.
And then so long-term follow-up, like 90-day plus.
Yeah.
Start there.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is where the ball gets dropped the most, isn't it?
that's like 75% of the leads in the system are on that plan, because until they're a buyer or seller right now, that's what they are. Right.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Kory, I love chatting with you. We need to do this more often. We need to get you back on here more often.
For sure.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week. You guys have a great day.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
See ya.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
Cheers.
Talk soon, guys.